Hi everybody, it is April and I'm in my craft room, and today we're going to make another 3-yard quilt called Modern Charm. Before I even get started, I want to send a shout out and a giant thank you to Barbie. I met Barbie at Austin's Sewing Center. I thought it was Austin's Fabrics, but it's not. It's Austin's Sewing Center on Saturday. She was so much fun. I had so much fun talking to her. Please give Samantha a pat on the head, and I hope that we will be in class together when we work on this panel that she bought me. She insisted. I tried. I swear I tried to get her not to, but she's so generous and such a kind person. So this is the panel that we're going to be taking a class on, and hopefully we won't get separated for talking too much, because, you know, I could see it happening. But anyway, thank you, Barbie, so much. It was so nice to meet you, and I hope that I see you many more times. And I will put a link in the description below. On to Modern Charm. Modern Charm is a request of one of my viewers. Let me show you the pattern. And this pattern is from Quick as a Wink 3-yard quilts. The traditional block in this particular pattern is called a Churndash. What we're going to focus on today are half square triangles. And I've said before, half square triangles are the bread and butter of quilting. You can do so much with a half square triangle. And there are several ways that you can make half square triangles. So we will focus on that part of this pattern today. Let me share with you the fabric that I'm going to be using today. It is by Benartex. All 3 pieces are from this collection, and it is called Contempo's Crescendo by Amanda Murphy. Fabric 1 is this floral print. It is not directional. However, you can use directional in this particular quilt. This is fabric 2. It's got polka dots on it. And fabric 3 is a swirl. It looks like this. And let's see if I can get it up close enough for you to see that swirl in there. And those are my 3 fabrics. So let's get started. I have actually already done all the cutting. I figured you didn't need to see me go. And I've got my blocks right here. So this is what my blocks look like. And now I need to sew my strips like this of fabric 2 and fabric 3 together. Here I have my strips sewn together. I'm going to detach them from one another. Notice I did not cut the selvage end off because I knew that I was going to be cutting these strips down. No sense in cutting a piece of fabric twice that you only need to cut once, or, you know, twice. No sense in cutting fabric 3 times that you only have to cut twice. Anyway, I think you get the idea. I will line these up in such a way that the seams are not on top of one another. And now I need to subcut them. Let me straighten up the end. I am going to assume that I have 48 of those. Now actually I got ahead of myself in the pattern, so if you're following along in the pattern, I did step 2 first. Now I'm going to go back to step 1, which is where I said we were going to focus, and that is on the half square triangles. So I need my number 2 squares and my number 3 squares. Here is where I show you different ways to make your half square triangles. Essentially, you are making these half square triangles the same way. but how you mark them is what's different. So what you want to do is you want to put them right sides together. It is light on the back, so I can use either side to do my marking. And keep in mind, you are marking on the back side of your fabric. So when you open it up and press it, you're not going to see the marking that you're doing. You can fold your fabric that you're going to put the mark on corner to corner, finger press or press the center of that square. You can see the seam that is pressed through the center of this square. I'm going to line up my foot, the right side of my foot to that pressed line, and I'm going to sew along that pressed line. And here you see the seam right to the left of the pressed line. Now I'm going to flip and sew the other side. The second way you can make your half square triangles, same concept, you put right sides together on your squares, but instead of pressing a line, you draw a line, and you can use a multitude of mediums to draw that line. So just like when you cut it with the earlier technique, you are going to line up a corner of your square with the opposite corner of your square. You can use just a regular lead pencil. My mechanical pencil was not working well, so I'm going to just go with a straight number 2 pencil, and you can see the line in the middle. You can also use just a regular pen, because again, you are not going to see this. This line is the line that you are going to cut along. Leave a little bit of your corner showing, because there you've got the area between your ruler and your pen. Depending on your fabric, a pen might be easier to see. This is a Clover air erasable marker. I happen to have one that's purple. It does come in other colors. This pen is great if you're going to be sewing what you're marking right away. After a few hours, this pen will disappear and it will be like you never even marked it. Last but not least, I have this tool. It's called Quick Quarter 2. Take your block, line it up, right sides together. Take your favorite marking medium, and instead of lining up the edge of your ruler, I want to make sure that I can see the point through this little slit, and then I want to see the point through the other little slit as well. When I have it so that I can see both, and I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to mark, and here you have what is going to be your cut line. Then you will be sewing a 1/4 inch on each side. Then you can put marks on the outside of this ruler. We put these marks on either side of this cut line so that while you're sewing, you can just do an extra check that you are actually going along the 1/4 inch. In the book, it says to sew a scant 1/4 inch from each side of this line. So what I did was I tried to just sew just inside this seam line that I marked from the ruler. Now what you can do once you've decided your favorite way to mark, you can chain stitch. I'm going to slow down my stitch a little here. I'm going to slow down because there are going to be a few stitches that don't hit fabric. Once I'm on my fabric, I'll go. We have the marks that we made with the Quick Quarter 2 ruler. So I can either line my needle up on this outer line, or I can line my foot up on this inner line, or I can pay attention to both. I've stitched along this line that is on the outside of the center line. Same with the erasable, same with the pen, and same with the pencil. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip them, and I will start with, I'm stabbing myself with a pen. Oh, hurts. It's the only thing I don't like about pens. I will start stitching on the other side. Now I'm going to line my ruler up. If you hear whining, it's my dog. So I'm going to be able to see the marks on the side of my ruler, because that's actually where my blade is going to be. So you can see that that was actually the cut line, and any of your marks are inside, not on the pretty side of your fabric. So here you've got your half square triangles. You should press your seam that embeds the stitching into the fabric, and then lightly lift the corner of your fabric. Put just enough pressure to make that fabric fold over the seam. Because it's so easy to warp our fabric, we are going to press, not iron. And there we have our half square triangle. And we need to do this for okay, this is what can happen if you're not paying attention. I did not put right sides together. So I have half of my half square triangle on top of the right side of my other half square triangle. Don't do this at home. I'm going to be breaking out the seam ripper on that one. So let's do a few more of these, and then there is one last step that we need to do. Our half square triangles are pressed, looking really cute. However, we have what are called dog ears, and this is where the fabric folds over, but there's not really, because that's a point, there's not really any place for it to go. They're known as dog ears. And although it sounds cruel and awful, we are going to cut off the dog ears. Now you might notice that this triangle, this half square triangle in the corner, it looks a little big. So I went back to the directions, and you need to make sure that these are squared up at the right size. And there are a couple of ways that we can do that. If you have a ruler, a square ruler that is the correct size, you can place that ruler on your square, and you can trim the edges with that. If you don't have a ruler, then you can line your square up on your surface and trim that way. I happen to have a ruler that is the right size, so I'm going to line up the edges in the corner as best I can. And the main thing is to make sure this line down the middle goes down the seam of your block. And there I have a nice clean block. Now all of our pieces and parts are sewn together, and they've been trimmed to the right size. So let's start putting our block together. So here are all of your blocks that you've made. You've got your center solid block, and you've got your stitched strips that go all the way around it. And then you have your half square triangles that fit there. So the first thing you want to do is you want to sew these two pieces together. And if you will notice, your strip of pink, this pink fabric that doesn't have any seams, will be connected to the seam of your two strips. Don't do what I did and sew your pink together. That is not right. For some reason, by the time I got it over to the sewing machine, I had flipped it this way. Make sure you've got a pink with no seams, and it's going to be sewn next to your stripped pieces with a seam. That will give us this. Then we are going to do the same thing. So notice your pink with no seam is going to be sewn to the seam portion of your pink and polka dot, or your 2 and 3 fabric. So you're going to sew that, and that is going to give you this. Here you have this piece, and this piece. So first we're going to put these two pieces together. Always remember the pink is stitched to the center block, which is fabric 2. Then you will have this. We're going to kind of scoot that over to the side. Then you're going to sew this piece. Again, the pink is going to be going on the center block. Sew that. And there you have the center block. Now, these two here are exactly the same. They're just flipped. So you can sew all of these pieces together just like that, and you're just going to flip them over, and that will give you this. Then you will sew this piece to this piece. And what I would do as far as nesting is I nested, or I pushed my seams toward the center block on each side. So see how the seams are pointing towards that center block. On this piece, the seams should go away from the center block. And this will allow you to nest. So here, you've got this seam going that way, and you can nest in the same here. Got your two seams going the opposite way, making it easier to nest. When you sew those two pieces together, you will have this. And the last piece to make our block is this. I would press these seams towards the arrows, towards the outside, and again, you will be able to nest these seams together and sew them, and that will give you your Churndash block. I have put all my blocks together, and this is a Churndash block. I think I was calling it a Churndash block. So I've got a stack of those. The rest of the blocks are just this block that I cut out from my fabric 1. A couple things I wanted to go over, and I think I said it a little bit, but just wanted to reiterate, this is not right. This should be turned the other way. So when you're sewing these two stripped pieces together with your half square triangle, make sure that you are sewing it like that. And also, don't sew it like that. When you are sewing your stripped pieces together with your half square triangle, make sure that the seam on those two strip pieces is going across that pink. Now, you can also make sure that those strip pieces are going across the pink, but it's going to be backwards. So just be really careful to put a pin in it, put a clip on it, turn them all the same way so you know which seam you're sewing, that kind of thing, because you don't want to end up with this. All right, let's put these blocks together and let's get a quilt done. As I am putting my blocks together, I'm finding that my Churndash block is a little bit bigger than what my piece, just my fabric block is. So I would suggest that you take just a couple minutes and make sure that the block is the size that it's supposed to be squared. It's just going to save you some heartache when you're trying to match your seams for the rows. My quilt top is complete. It's got bright colors. It's got a pretty traditional block on it, the Churndash block, which is this block right here. Throughout the video, I think I refer to it as the Churndash block. So I will try and catch all of those places where I called it the wrong thing. Maybe I want to call it a new name. I'm really bad with names. Obviously, not only people, but blocks as well. I do have something special that I'm going to do with this quilt, and I really just came up with it as I was finishing putting the borders on. Let's go with as I finished putting the borders on, and I am going to give this quilt top away. I'm not going to limit this just to people who are subscribed, because some people aren't comfortable giving their information, although I don't know if it lets you comment if you're not subscribed. But this is just for the people who come back time and again. I didn't put anything out anywhere saying that I was going to give this away, because I kind of wanted it to be for the people who watch the entire video and who really enjoy my content. So if you want to win this quilt, make a comment below. If you can't make a comment, if you're not subscribed, then send me an email to aprilscraftroom@gmail.com. And what I want you to tell me is which of my 3-yard quilts that I have made on video are your favorite. Which one, not are, which one is your favorite? Which design is your favorite? And that'll just let me know that you were really listening to what I was saying. I want to thank you for watching my content. I really do appreciate you taking out the time. If you're not afraid to, you can subscribe. It doesn't cost you any money, and then you can be notified if you click the bell when I do upload new videos. And it's not at a regular time. I try, but it just doesn't always work out that way. Have a great day, eat some chocolate, and be kind to everyone. Until next time, bye. What'd I do with my water? I always said if you cry on YouTube, you'll get more views. Oh, where's my water? Ah! What did I do with it? It's probably right. There it is. Whew. Okie dokie. Let me share with you the and those are my theories. And really and truly, I just came up with it as I was finishing putting